Okay, so welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I want to present you the winner of the Norway Chess 2020 BLITZ section. Now the Norway Chess tournament is a tournament that's usually a classical tournament, but they also have this BLITZ portion on the first day so that the players can, warm up a little bit. And I can only tell you that it's a little bit of a spoiler, but Wesley So kind of warmed up the best. But there was also Vishwanathan Anand, a great player, the 5-time world champion, but he's much older than all of these guys in the field. So let's see how he's facing against Anish Giri, and let's see how he does. He actually finished 4th, by the way, so let's see how he got here. We have e4 c5, and basically here Anish goes for his well-known Najdorf, and Vishwanathan decides to play with a4. Knight back to f3 and e5, and this is very classical. That's why the opening is I'm skipping a little bit through it. And here the idea is take the bishop and plant the knight on the juicy d5 square. And here basically Vishy defends the bishop, and we have a trade. And black has this cluster of pawns, but also has some pressure on the queen side. Move c3 has to be played. Now the b2 pawn is defended. We have castles, queen c6, knight e1, and we have the reroute of the knight. Bishop back to d8, knight reroutes, and a5 is played. And a5 is played to stop b4 and further queenside expansion by white. King h1 is played to prepare the move f4. Now b5. And here the best move would have been to take the pawn, but Vishy goes with his plan. He plays f4. Now, if you take on f4, this is not the best thing in the world. Knight takes on f4, but also not the worst. B takes on a4, and you cannot. You can take here, but you cannot really do anything much more with white. Black is just very solid here. So coming back to the game, a takes on b4 was played, and bishop e7 defending this pawn. And now, as the pressure was increasing, move d5. And here basically white has this extra pawn, and queen g4 keeps the advantage in the sense that now maybe it threatens to push, maybe it threatens to bring in the knight. And this move now is not scary at all, because b takes on a3, and you cannot really take this pawn, as this queen check just picks up the bishop. So a takes on b3, king back to h8, h3, and queen c4. Now Vishy decides to put his queen in Anish's camp, but he gets with the bishop out, obviously, and now e6. And here Vishy plays the move queen a7, which is not the best move, because it kind of gives up both this pawn and this pawn. This pawn was under attack, yes. And here apparently rook takes c3 and queen e6 are the best moves. Anish plays the move queen takes on e6. Vishy takes on a5, now defends this pawn, but the queen is a little bit away from the play, and now bishop g3 would have been the best move, but Anish goes back with the queen to e4, and now queen b4 completely equalizes. And here Anish decides to trade queens. And as you can see, Vishy is winning because he has this outside passed pawn, and it's actually protected passed pawn, actually 2 connected passed pawns. That's a lot. And Anish basically here he throws this pawn that can actually be taken, even though you have this, because you have a counter pin, and to this you have rook a2, and everything is defended. So black didn't really do a whole lot, but okay, Vishy decides not to take the pawn, and now Anish goes bishop g3, kind of closes in and attacks the knight. But of course the knight still defended. Attacks the pawn, but he pushes the pawns, and now decides to come in with a king. Anish plays a move making room for his king, just waiting. But here this move king e2 allows Anish to come in with check, and then rook e3. And now Anand missed the idea that he cannot really push the pawn because now he's lost, and he pushed the pawn and he resigned. But here, you know, just a simple move like king c2 stops all counterplay, and here basically wherever you go with the king you're safe, because even though you can take this pawn, the knight, the pawn still remains on the board, and you cannot stop it. But the way Vichy did it, pushing the pawn right away, now you have not this rook, but you have to take with the other one to not allow the king to escape. And after like king c2, you can go rook c3 check, and if you come back now you actually have bishop f4 with mate threats. So like, you know, let's say you make a queen, this is mate in one. So yeah, that was a very nice game played by Vichy, but in the end he just lost in time trouble, and Anish Giri picks up a win, and Anish actually finished third. But before we go away from Anand, he actually beat Magnus Carlsen, so let's see how he did it. And now Magnus Carlsen went for a modern with a6, and this actually gonna turn into more of another opening than it is this one, and it's very weird. So here Magnus decides to give up the bishop for the knight, basically saying that his bishop is kind of useless there on c8, and that he's gonna create a light square blockade, as we can see from this configuration here of pawns. And now he prepares maybe the move c5 with the knight and the queen, and basically we're gonna have you know, kind of like different opposite side castles, and you know, different attacks. So it's a matter of who gets there first. And the move bishop h6, always a useful move with trading the bishops, but here maybe it wasn't the best thing. Here knight d4 is better because you bring in the knight earlier, and you don't really mind this trade because this brings the queen to attack. But you know, Vichy took and brought his rook now to g3. b4 by Magnus, so Magnus slowly creeping in, and Vichy going finally with the knight in the center. But this allows a tactic by Magnus, taking the pawn with a fork, and now takes the rook. So Magnus basically gave up 2 pieces for a rook and 2 pawns, and Magnus actually up 1 point in material if we count it like that. So now he wants a queen trade, but Vichy doesn't give it to him, although he would have been fine. He basically wants to keep more pieces on the board, as he thinks that he's worse in an endgame. And now obviously you cannot take this pawn, the rook is loose, that's actually made in one. Obviously Vichy saw that, and now he attacks the queen, and Magnus doesn't choose chooses the right square for the queen, but now he doesn't choose the best idea here with a4. Basically what he had to play here was move like rook c8, stopping this threat kind of, because now if you go for this, there's actually rook c5, and that's very loose. But the way Magnus did it, he allows this move, and now after rook f5 attacking the bishop, now there is this move rook d3, and after the check, basically a repetition is threatened, and here Magnus decides not to repeat moves, but he gives up the pawn in the process. Now he attacks the knight comes back, we have a rook check, and now rook doubling up. And Magnus is now completely winning after the move queen g1, but he doesn't see that. Again, he has 25 seconds. He plays the move a3. Now queen g1 is winning because you're threatening to, like, let's say white makes a move, like you're threatening this. And I mean you can say that, okay, you have a piece for, and even though, I mean, let's say you wouldn't be able to take that pawn, but okay, you have like a knight and a rook for the queen. It's still much better with these pawns here. You cannot stop the attack, but a3 And now Magnus gives up the pawn with no compensation, trades queens, but now he's actually in a much worse endgame. Now he's down 2 points of material, and basically Vichy has the 2 pieces for the rook. And here Magnus actually lost on time, but the position is also completely lost because the pass pawn is just going, and here you would have to just like come back with the rook here to just basically stop the pawn. And this is pretty depressing. Now rook f2 threatening bishop f3, and I mean, yes, you can try something, but it doesn't work. So Anand beats Magnus. And actually Magnus also, I'm going to show a very nice and quick game between Magnus and Tari here, as I speak to you about the standings. Now we all know Anand finished 4th and Giri finished 3rd, but there was a battle between Magnus and Wesley, and I haven't spoken about Wesley yet, well, because I'm kind of keeping the surprise, a little bit of tension. And I'm gonna show also 2 Wesley games, and you know, in a tournament, in a closed tournament, every player plays each other, and basically Magnus and Wesley, they got to play each other, and the result is great. Now I skipped a little bit of the opening because we have this opposite colored bishop's middle game. That's basically the important part. And you're gonna see how Magnus turns this position around. First of all, he gets his bishop active, stopping Tari from castling. Tari also stops Magnus from castling, but Magnus doesn't really want to castle. He just wants to play the move king f2. Now that's a pretty savage move. And after king f7, Ari does the same. Now Magnus basically drops the bishop back, has the pressure going, and you know, in an endgame, yes, the opposite color bishops cancel each other out and it's a draw, but in the middle game you have this very interesting dynamic where a bishop controls one side and the other bishop controls the other side, and usually the side that's attacking has more benefits from this, as the other bishop cannot defend. So basically it's a piece that's just up a piece, right? That's just a piece 1 kind of. So right, Tari tries to defend this. Magnus now unlocks his queen and he joins the attack. And basically a4 is a pretty big mistake here. Now the position is beginning to fall apart, and although queen b6 is like the best move, and again, like, you would want something like this. Like now it's actually not that bad. Okay, bishop b1, a4, and you kind of begin to get the hang of it. Bishop a2, rook b6, not rook c3, and this might be a draw. Again, opposite color bishops, but what Tari did in the game, a4 right away, now b4 by Magnus, and here the move bishop d3, and now Magnus is completely winning, and of course he finds it. He goes rook a5 first, queen c4, and now just queen d2, and the queen is trapped. And basically you cannot go back with the queen as you lose the bishop, and you've just gotta come here with the c4, and now the queen is trapped. Like, you cannot go here, nor here on the c file, nor here, and the queen is under attack. So very nice queen trap by Magnus. So here we go over to Wesley now. So Wesley didn't start the tournament the best way. He actually lost the first game and drew the next 2 rounds, but then he won 5 straight games, and this is one of them. And he also played Maroczy bind, and this is very important to me because I would love to start, you know, playing this this system. And basically here the move knight h6 invites the trade. Bishop takes on h6 and bishop takes on d4. Very important here, not taking the bishop, because this basically allows the very savage move knight takes on f5. And you might not see it right away, but you cannot really take back with the pawn because queen h5 check and king d8, and now you pick up the bishop, and you know, although like fe4, let's say, Now just castles, and like white is much better. Look at this king, and the pieces are just ready to go. So that's why Topalov had to take on d4, now castles, and Topalov decides to damage the structure. But the pawn in a way prevents the knight from entering, and Wesley has the knight for bishop advantage. So long castles, and now rook b1, knight goes to e5, and here the position was fine. It was in the zeros, but this move was kind of a blunder here because of the move bishop g7 now. And here Topalov decides to sack the exchange, but you cannot really keep it. Like, you cannot really play something like this, because now bishop takes on e5, and okay, like, you get this trade, but it's very bad, because you cannot defend both this, and this is a lot of pressure. So black is doing very bad in that position. So that's why Topalov went for queen c6 and sacked the exchange. Now the position is not like it's getting much better, but now he has fighting chances. He picks up a pawn. Wesley goes with a king, queen delivers a check and comes in to pressure the e7 pawn. Topalov defends. Now Wesley pressures the knight. Knight goes back, and now the move a4. Wesley wants to go a5, destabilize him. e3, and now f4. What a move! Just deflecting the knight, attacking the knight, and now Topalov makes a big blunder with the move e2, and it's a okay. So here basically this move just like loses the game on the spot, because f takes on e5. And after queen c3, now Wesley ends the game in style with the move rook takes, whoops, 2 moves ahead. Rook takes on b7 here, and after king takes, just pawn takes, and now, this promotion is stopped, and the rook is defended, and you cannot do anything. Like, you cannot take, you lose the rook. And although, like, Topalov is actually up a pawn, the position is +3, and he resigns. So here we are with the final game, Wesley So against Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus Carlsen goes crazy and plays the move a4. Now, what is this? Come on, what is this? You cannot be playing the move a4 against the 2766 rated GM. Like, you gotta be kidding, right? And then Magnus goes on to play like a normal, like, queen's pawn opening, like Catalan, but he threw the move a4 in, and now he takes, and basically this is almost like a reverse Catalan in a way. Like knight a6, you cannot go b4, so that's why Magnus gives the pawn back, attacks the knight. Wesley defends it, a5, bishop b7, and now bishop d4, centralizing and also like putting pressure on the bishop, and move rook a3, pretty creative from Magnus. The rook can now patrol the third rank without moving the pawns forward too much. And also you have this side idea that, maybe you want to trade the rooks. So knight goes back, and the knight comes forward. We have a knight to trade, and now bishop c6. And we have this exchange, and now Magnus moves the queen back. So what do we have in this position? Well, both pairs have the bishop pair. But Wesley has this loose pawn, but in a way he also has the open file, so there's kind of compensation for that. Magnus's knight is a little bit stranded, while Wesley's knight can go back, but he will have to trade bishops. So he decides to go bishop f8 to not allow a trade when he's gonna move the knight. So now he goes knight d7, and basically bishop d4, queen goes to b4, rook b1, defending the pawn. And now rook goes to c8, knight to d1, bishop to b5, queen to e3, rook takes on c2, and Wesley is much better here. Here, what Magnus had to play after this move was not defend like this. Here this defense is too slow because of the attack on the queen, but Magnus was down to 3 seconds, so it's understandable why he made that mistake. But Wesley just, I mean, he just destroys Magnus, just comes in, all of the pieces are playing, and b4 now, attacking the bishop, but bishop goes back, and here rook b3, Magnus tries a little bit of counterplay, but just the move d3, and now Magnus blunders the fact that now you cannot take the pawn because of this, and just bishop b4, you cannot defend this. I mean, yes, you can go rook e3, but here, you know, just simple move like king g7 or even f5 or even b5, and white cannot do anything. Like basically, I mean, yes, you can maybe try this, but just bishop c3. Okay, like try f3 to go here, that's fine. King f6. You even managed to go here, that's fine. Now I just take. So like you managed to unpin yourself, it's fine. Now I just take. Now my king is way too active. So yeah, Wesley ends up winning the tournament with 6.5 out of 9. Great performance, 1 full point ahead of Magnus, and basically he was the best player in the tournament. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Kowalski out.